I'm sure you've all, at one time or another, felt the pain of browsing a desktop site on a smartphone. The small screen shrinks everything, so you need to constantly pan and zoom. Clicking works too slowly, or maybe it's too aggressive. Overall, it's a frustrating experience. Today, the most common way to address this is to create a dedicated mobile website, a website designed for these smaller touchscreens and so easier to use on them. Website users browsing from a smartphone would be redirected to those websites where they'll be better served. These dedicated websites often use the m. prefix, for instance m.acmi.com, which is short for mobile, and so they're often referred to as m. sites. However, using an m. site does come with some challenges. For starters, it's hard to tell who gets that mobile website. Should a smartphone really get the same site as a feature phone? Should a remote-driven smart TV get the same one as a mouse-operated desktop site? And what about upcoming devices like Google Glass or a Pebble Watch? These are very different devices, and there's no single experience that is ideal for all of them. Even keeping track of the existence of all of these devices is extremely hard, let alone identifying and categorizing them. In addition, maintaining a separate website for each group of devices quickly becomes not feasible. And so, in mid-2010, a new methodology came around: responsive web design. Instead of using dedicated websites, responsive design advocates using the same URL and the same web page across all devices, and having that page automatically respond to the client that loads it, modifying its styling and content to get a good user experience. A good responsive website should be future-friendly, meaning it adapts to the device even if that device didn't even exist when the website was created. Within the responsive design world, there are two different design philosophies: mobile first and desktop first. Mobile first advocates starting your design by creating a mobile website, a site designed for the simplest and smallest device you want to support. Once that site is designed, you start expanding to bigger and more powerful clients, and you progressively enhance the website as new space and capabilities become available. Desktop first takes the opposite approach, starting from the biggest and richest flavor of that website, and, as you start considering smaller screens and less capabilities, gracefully degrades the content to match these newfound restrictions. Mobile first and desktop first are important design philosophies, but their implementation is practically identical. Implementing responsive design comes down to two core principles: fluid design and breakpoints. Fluid design means a website should remove any mention of a fixed length on the page and replace it with a percentage. This way, when the site is loaded on a smaller screen, the different parts of the page would just automatically adjust to the new and smaller space. Applying fluid design to images is often called fluid images as well. Fluid design is great, but if you've ever opened a mobile website on a desktop browser, you've probably noticed that while the site works fine, it's not very usable. You have these pieces of text designed for small screens, and now they stretch on a very long line. Various standards and conventions are not being applied. The site isn't very well designed for your desktop. When fluid design leads to these types of effects, it's time to introduce a breakpoint. Breakpoints imply a more significant change to the web page styling, like adding a column, changing the menu format, or adding an ad at the top. Breakpoints are technically implemented using CSS media queries. These are style rules that only trigger when certain conditions are met, for instance, the screen becoming big enough or the device having a retina display. Responsive design is awesome for usability, but it does present a challenge when it comes to performance. At its simplest form, responsive design assumes the server sends down all the information to the client, and the client is the one deciding what to show. And so, if you open a responsive website on a small smartphone screen, your device will actually download a full, rich desktop site and then use styling instructions to hide the vast majority of the content, displaying that lighter-weight mobile view of the site to the user. This means the average responsive website is much slower to load on a mobile device than the average m. site. and that moving to responsive can have the side effect of setting back your mobile website's performance. On real-world websites, this problem has the biggest impact when it comes to downloading images. The first common problem is called download and hide. Responsive HTML would often hold many image tags that are then hidden using these smart style rules. However, browsers, for a variety of reasons, do download images even if they are hidden. This leads to many wasted downloads, often accounting for half or even more of the overall page bytes. The second problem is called download and shrink. If an image is displayed on both a small and big screen, the browser would point and download the same image file in both cases. Using fluid design, the browser would then shrink the image on the small screen as instructed, to make it fit nicely and work well on the page. This means that we often send a 1,000 pixel wide image only to display it in a 300 pixel wide space. This is again wasteful behavior, and studies show that this waste can be as high as 3/4 of the overall displayed image size. To address these problems, responsive websites can use a technique called responsive images. The main idea behind responsive images is to download a smaller image to a smaller screen. A secondary aspect of it is avoiding the download of hidden images. Responsive images is a concept, but not yet a standard. Several proposals for standardizing responsive images are being discussed. Most notable are the source set attribute and the picture element. But no browsers really support these options today. Responsive websites looking to avoid these problems need to replace their image tags with more sophisticated image loading techniques, building on JavaScript and CSS capabilities. Building such smart loaders is hard, but it's critical in order to keep the responsive websites fast. To summarize, responsive design is a powerful new design paradigm, and is likely the way pages would cope with the mobile landscape moving forward. Responsive design brings with it significant performance challenges due to its tendency to over-download. We discussed how they impact images, but these challenges also apply to scripts and CSS content. Akamai's Aqua Ion includes powerful tools such as edge device characterization and FEO's responsive images optimization, which can help website owners tackle these problems and be both responsive and fast.